Some people carry such presence that they transform the room without saying a single word. They do not compete for attention. They do not beg for recognition. Instead, they simply withdraw, and suddenly everyone feels the weight of their absence pressing in silently. The atmosphere changes because energy shifts. People who once ignored them now begin to wonder where they went. Silence makes others restless. Curiosity grows stronger, and those who never valued their presence start to chase it. Withdrawal becomes the hidden lever of influence. This is not about arrogance or cruelty. It is about the subtle power of stepping back. When you stop offering yourself endlessly, the world is forced to notice the void you leave behind, and it responds with new respect and attention. The moment you stop being available, everything begins to shift. People who once relied on your instant responses suddenly feel uneasy. They notice the silence where your energy once flowed, and that emptiness forces them to confront how much they depended on your presence. Availability creates comfort, but also breeds complacency. When you withdraw that constant access, others realize they took you for granted. What was once assumed as permanent is now questioned. The rules of interaction change, and people must adapt to your new boundaries. True transformation begins when you decide your time and energy are no longer free resources for everyone to claim. That decision rewrites the game. Instead of being a servant to every demand, you step into authority over your own life. Being always available may look like kindness, but in truth, it is self-abandonment. You silence your own needs so others can be comfortable. You trade your peace of mind for their approval, and slowly you disappear beneath the weight of endless demands. Society praises the person who never says no, who is always ready to help, who answers every message instantly. Yet behind the applause hides exhaustion, resentment, and emptiness. Being constantly available drains the soul and turns generosity into a silent prison. When you abandon yourself to meet the expectations of others, you lose touch with your authentic self. Availability becomes a mask you wear, convincing the world you are fine while inside you are breaking. That is not virtue, it is betrayal. When something is always available, people stop appreciating it. The human mind values rarity and effort. If you are constantly present, others begin to assume you will always be there. What costs them nothing slowly loses its worth until it feels invisible. Relationships follow the same rule. When you give endless time and attention without boundaries, people adapt to your generosity. Instead of gratitude, entitlement grows. What once felt like a gift becomes taken for granted. Accessibility without limits erases respect and deepens neglect. The truth is, scarcity creates value. When you are selective with your time and energy, others recognize your presence as meaningful. But when you allow yourself to be endlessly available, you reduce your own worth and teach people not to treasure you. Carl Jung explained that every person develops a persona, a social mask carefully designed to gain acceptance. It is the polished version of ourselves, shown to family, friends, and colleagues. Behind it, hidden fears and unspoken truths remain, unseen but silently shaping our lives. The persona allows us to function in society. It helps us survive workplaces, families, and communities that demand conformity. Yet over time, many forget the mask is not their true identity. They confuse the role they play with the essence of who they are. When the mask becomes permanent, authenticity fades. You smile when you are tired, you nod when you disagree. You pretend to be fine while quietly collapsing inside. The persona grants approval, but at the cost of suffocating the authentic self that longs to breathe. The persona whispers that you must agree to be accepted. You smile when exhausted, you nod when uncomfortable. You answer messages though you are drained. Each false agreement protects the mask but sacrifices your truth, leaving you further away from your authentic voice. This silent compromise repeats until it feels normal. You choose peace over honesty, harmony over integrity, approval over authenticity. People see a cooperative image, not the real you. The mask wins, but your soul loses strength every time you surrender your no. Every forced yes carries a hidden wound. The pain may not be visible, but deep inside you know the truth. By saying yes against your will, you betray yourself. Self-betrayal disguised as kindness is the slowest form of self-destruction. Every time you say yes while your heart cries no, you fracture your integrity. Carl Jung believed individuation requires honesty with yourself. Growth begins when you refuse the false yes and dare to risk disapproval in exchange for authenticity and personal wholeness. The mask offers safety but demands sacrifice. Each false yes may preserve temporary peace, but it erodes your inner strength. People may admire your compliance, yet they never know your true self. Self-betrayal slowly drains vitality until you barely recognize who you are. The courage to say no restores dignity. It teaches others your time and energy are sacred. It reconnects you with authenticity. Every honest no may cost comfort, but it protects your soul. Choosing truth over convenience is the first act of freedom. Carl Jung described the human psyche as an energy system, constantly shifting and transforming. Thoughts, emotions, and reactions are not free. Each one consumes a portion of your inner power. When energy is wasted, the self becomes weaker, leaving you vulnerable and fragmented. Every argument, every unnecessary explanation, every attempt to please people drains this inner reservoir. You may believe small reactions do not matter, but over time they accumulate into exhaustion. Energy spent without intention is energy lost forever, and what is lost cannot be recovered. To live consciously is to treat your energy as precious currency. You decide where it flows, you choose what deserves it, and you guard it carefully. This awareness transforms your psychology from a leaking container into a stable system of authentic power. Every impulsive reaction is like a hole in the vessel of your mind. Anger, defensiveness, or instant replies may feel satisfying in the moment, but each one drains psychic energy. What seems small eventually empties the reservoir that sustains clarity, focus, and inner strength. You may not notice the cost immediately. A single reaction feels harmless. A quick response feels natural. Yet repeated endlessly, these leaks leave you exhausted. Energy is not infinite. The more you squander it on trivial triggers, the less you have for true growth. Jung believed mastery begins with restraint. To pause before reacting is to seal the leak. You reclaim the power that would otherwise be wasted. Every moment of self-control preserves energy, and every preserved ounce builds the foundation of authentic authority. Real power is never about constant reaction. It is about patience, timing, and precision. When you wait and choose your response carefully, your words strike deeper. Your actions carry weight because they are deliberate. Power grows when energy is directed with intention. The weak are controlled by impulses, reacting to every comment and provocation. The strong remain silent until the right moment arrives. Their restraint unsettles others because silence reveals discipline. Authority belongs to those who act by choice, not those who are ruled by emotion. Every act becomes meaningful when chosen rather than forced. A single no delivered at the right time protects more than endless yes responses. A calm silence can defeat manipulation more effectively than shouting. True mastery comes when you decide how your energy moves. People often carry wounds they cannot face, so they project them onto others. They expect you to soothe their loneliness, to validate their worth, to distract them from their emptiness. Their needs become demands, and without awareness you end up carrying burdens that are not yours. Projection disguises itself as love, friendship, or obligation. Someone may demand constant attention, not because they care, but because they fear abandonment. Another may push you to fix their chaos, not because you are capable, but because they refuse to face their own disorder. When you absorb these projections, you live someone else's unfinished story. You become the healer for their pain, the audience for their drama, the rescuer for their weakness. But in giving yourself away, you abandon your own narrative, forgetting that your life has meaning too. Most people are not truly drawn to who you are. They are drawn to the comfort, validation, or distraction you give them. They mistake your presence for a service. What they need is not you, but the benefit of what you provide. This is why attention disappears when you stop supplying energy. Friends who relied on your listening ear vanish when you fall silent. Partners who depended on your endless patience grow restless when you set boundaries. Their affection was conditional, attached to your role, not your essence. Understanding this truth is liberating. You realize many connections were never about authentic relationship, but about convenience. People sought the light you carried, not the person behind it. Recognizing this allows you to reclaim your energy and give it only where it is valued. Manipulation thrives on your reaction. When someone pushes your buttons and you respond instantly, they confirm control. They learn which words ignite your anger, which gestures trigger guilt, which silence makes you chase. Without realizing it, your predictable reactions become the very streams that move you. The manipulator does not need to shout. They only need to observe your patterns. If you always defend yourself, they accuse you. If you always comfort, they play the victim. The game continues because you keep reacting in the exact way they expect. The moment you refuse to react, the game collapses. Silence disarms accusations, boundaries dissolve guilt, withdrawal breaks control. Manipulation cannot survive without fuel. By ending the reflex to react, you reclaim freedom. Your stillness becomes the wall against which every tactic shatters and disappears. Silence often feels uncomfortable because people equate it with defeat. Yet silence is not weakness, it is strategy. When you refuse to answer provocation, you deny others control. Your restraint unsettles them, showing that your energy is yours alone to give or withhold. Those who seek to manipulate thrive on noise, reaction, and explanation. When you stay quiet, they cannot predict you. Silence forces them to face their own emptiness. It reflects their chaos back to them. In that mirror, they meet themselves instead of controlling you. Silence is powerful because it is intentional. It is not running away, but choosing where to engage. Every unspoken word preserves energy. Every pause creates clarity. In silence, you hold the upper ground. Mastery begins when you realize silence is a conscious decision. Manipulation survives on predictable responses. When someone knows how to provoke you, they repeat the pattern until you surrender control. But the cycle collapses the moment you stop reacting. Refusing to respond starves manipulation of fuel and forces the other person to face themselves. Each time you react, you reinforce the manipulator's strategy. They grow confident that your emotions are within their reach. But when you remain calm, they lose certainty. Confusion replaces control, and without your cooperation, their tactics fail. The cycle ends where your silence begins. Breaking this cycle does not mean ignoring forever. It means choosing when to respond on your own terms. By withholding immediate reaction, you protect your energy. You no longer dance to their rhythm. Instead, you create space where your boundaries define the interaction. Silence is not absence. It is a form of presence that commands attention without words. When you choose silence, the atmosphere shifts. People lean in, waiting for your response. They sense the weight of your restraint and recognize a strength beyond constant explanation. Words can be ignored, debated, or twisted, but silence cannot be dismissed. It lingers in the room, forcing others to confront their own thoughts. Silence is unshakable because it cannot be argued with. It communicates authority more effectively than endless conversation ever could. Those who master silence project power effortlessly. They do not beg to be understood. They do not fight to be heard. Their quiet presence speaks louder than noise. True presence is not measured by volume, but by the discipline to remain still and controlled. Carl Jung taught that individuation, the journey to wholeness, demands facing the shadow. The shadow is the hidden side of the psyche, the parts of ourselves we deny or repress. It holds anger, fear, envy, and weakness, waiting for acknowledgement before true growth can occur. Most people run from the shadow because it feels threatening. They prefer masks of politeness or illusions of strength, yet ignoring the shadow gives it greater power. It grows in silence, shaping behavior unconsciously. Individuation begins only when you shine awareness on what lies hidden. Confronting the shadow is not about destroying it, but integrating it. The darkness carries lessons and untapped energy. By meeting it honestly, you transform shame into wisdom and weakness into strength. Individuation is the courage to embrace both light and dark within yourself. When you withdraw, the projections others placed on you collapse. They can no longer use you as their mirror or distraction. Suddenly, they must confront their own emptiness, insecurity, and fear. Your absence forces them into the silence where their shadow waits, demanding recognition. This withdrawal unsettles people because it exposes what they have avoided. Without your constant availability, they cannot escape themselves. Their anger, blame, or accusations are not really about you. They are reactions to the discomfort of facing their own unresolved darkness without your distraction. Your choice to step back is a catalyst. It creates space where truth surfaces. The more you refuse to carry their burdens, the clearer their hidden patterns become. In your silence, they encounter the shadow they denied, and transformation begins whether they like it or not. When others lash out as you withdraw, it is not proof that you are wrong. Their anger is a symptom of resistance. They feel exposed without your compliance. The discomfort they project onto you is actually their struggle with their own hidden shadow. Accusations of selfishness or coldness are attempts to pull you back into old patterns. People prefer the comfort of your availability because it spares them from looking inward. When you set boundaries, they experience loss, but the loss is of control, not of love. Their discomfort is a necessary stage of growth. By holding your ground, you allow them to wrestle with themselves. Resistance often precedes transformation. When they can no longer use you as an escape, they must confront the truth within, even if it feels painful. Conscious unavailability is often misunderstood. People assume your silence means pride, or your boundaries mean rejection. In truth, it is neither arrogance nor coldness. It is the deliberate choice to protect your energy and honor your time. It is self-respect disguised as distance. Saying no does not make you cruel. It makes you clear. Silence does not make you absent. It makes you intentional. Conscious unavailability is not about punishing others. It is about refusing to punish yourself by giving endlessly where your presence is not valued. Those who misinterpret your unavailability reveal their dependence on your compliance. They preferred the version of you who was always accessible. By stepping back, you show them that your worth cannot be defined by constant availability. You are present by choice, not by obligation. Sovereignty begins when you realize your energy is limited and sacred. Every thought, reaction, and conversation is an investment. Conscious unavailability means ruling over that investment with wisdom. You decide who receives your attention, when it is given, and whether the exchange enriches or depletes you. Selective attention is an act of authority. By choosing carefully, you declare that not everyone deserves equal access to your mind and heart. The world will always demand more, but sovereignty is the courage to say no. Your focus becomes a throne that only few may enter. This control is not selfishness. It is alignment. When you protect your energy, you show respect for yourself and for others. Because only by guarding your vitality can you offer true presence. Sovereignty ensures your attention remains a gift, not a commodity to be exploited. Every no you speak is not rejection of life, but protection of self. By refusing demands that drain you, you reclaim strength for what matters. Saying no to the world clears space for peace, creativity, and growth. It is a declaration of self-loyalty. Too often people confuse sacrifice with love. They believe constant yes proves devotion, yet it only breeds exhaustion. Saying no is not closing doors, it is opening the right ones. Each no removes what is false, leaving more room for what is true. When you honor yourself enough to say no, you discover freedom. You are no longer controlled by obligation or fear of rejection. Instead, you choose with intention. And every no becomes a deeper yes, a yes to authenticity, dignity, and your most essential self. The first cost of conscious unavailability is guilt. You feel guilty for saying no, guilty for resting, guilty for choosing yourself. This guilt is the echo of old conditioning. It whispers that your worth depends on service, and breaking that illusion feels painfully uncomfortable. Another cost is loneliness. When you stop being endlessly available, some people leave. They were attached not to you, but to your accessibility. Their absence creates silence that at first feels heavy. Yet in that loneliness, you begin to meet the authentic self you abandoned. Being misunderstood is perhaps the hardest cost. People may call you selfish, cold, or distant. They misinterpret your boundaries as rejection. But their confusion is proof you have stepped out of the role they created for you. Misunderstanding is the sign of transformation beginning. The reward for conscious unavailability is peace. When you stop scattering your energy across endless demands, stillness returns. Your mind no longer races to please everyone. In the silence left behind, calmness appears. Peace becomes the natural state that grows when you choose yourself first. Clarity is another reward. With fewer distractions, you begin to see what truly matters. Choices become easier. Relationships reveal their true nature, and your priorities align. Clarity allows you to move with direction instead of confusion. It is the gift of perspective earned through boundaries. From peace and clarity comes inner strength. You realize you no longer collapse under pressure. You can withstand manipulation, criticism, and misunderstanding without losing balance. This strength is not aggression but stability. It is the quiet power of someone who governs themselves completely. When you choose boundaries, some people will leave. They were attached to the version of you who was endlessly available, not to your true self. Their departure hurts, but it also reveals truth. Losing them frees you from roles that never reflected who you are. You may lose temporary approval, constant companionship, or shallow admiration, yet what you gain is incomparable. You rediscover your own voice, your own rhythm, your own worth. The absence of those who misunderstood you becomes the space where your authentic self rises again. Finding yourself means no longer depending on external validation. You realize your presence is valuable even when unrecognized. What you thought was loss becomes liberation. In releasing people who only love the mask, you embrace the deeper love of living in your own truth. Choosing unavailability is not escaping from life. It is stepping back to return stronger. It is not rejection of the world, but renewal of yourself. When you withdraw with intention, you are not hiding. You are shedding old skins and preparing for transformation within. Rebirth happens in the silence of distance. You are no longer consumed by constant demands, so space opens for reflection. In that space you begin to rebuild. What seemed like withdrawal becomes reconstruction. The stillness outside becomes the soil where your authentic self grows. This rebirth changes your relationship with everything. You no longer seek worth in noise or validation. You understand value is born from within. What others call absence is really alignment. You are not less present in life. You are more present than ever. When you embrace conscious unavailability, you stop being molded by external expectations. No longer do the opinions of friends, family, or society dictate who you must be. Instead of being a reflection of others, you become a reflection of your inner truth and choice. To be shaped by others is to live in fragments. Every demand pulls you in a different direction until you lose yourself. But when you choose authenticity, you gather those scattered pieces. You reclaim your center and live from the core of your own design. This freedom is not loud or dramatic. It is subtle but undeniable. You realize that your worth is not determined by applause, criticism, or approval. You are shaped by your values, not their projections. Life becomes yours to mold, not theirs to define. When you stop being shaped by others, you discover the ability to shape reality from within. Your choices are no longer reactions to external pressure. They emerge from inner clarity. In this state, you create a life that reflects authenticity rather than conformity or fear. Reality bends to the strength of your inner world. When peace rules inside, chaos outside loses power. When you cultivate vision, opportunities align. You become a creator rather than a responder. The external world no longer dictates your path because your center becomes the guide. To shape reality from within is to live deliberately. You choose how to direct your energy, which relationships to nurture, and which paths to walk. This creative power is the fruit of individuation. Life is no longer random. It becomes an expression of self-mastery. When you stop giving your time and energy to everyone, you reclaim them for yourself. This reclaimed energy becomes the foundation of growth. You realize that availability is not an obligation, but a gift, and the first person worthy of that gift is always you. Becoming available to yourself means listening to your needs without guilt. It means honoring rest, following curiosity, and building dreams. The silence once filled by constant demands becomes a sanctuary where your voice grows stronger. In that sanctuary, you meet the truest version of who you are. This final step is liberation. You no longer seek validation through endless giving. You no longer measure worth by others' approval. By becoming available to yourself, you align with authenticity. The journey ends where it began, with you, whole and complete in your own presence.